I found my son's prescription history and realized my wife had been secretly drugging him for years based on a fake diagnosis. The most terrifying thing about the truth is that it had been hiding in plain sight for 3 years, masked by the person I trusted most in the world. My name is David, and my wife, Lisa, was the picture of the devoted, proactive mother. We had been married for 12 years and had 2 children, but the focus of our lives and the source of our greatest anxiety was our 9-year-old son, Alex. Alex was a brilliant, creative boy, but he was high energy, easily distracted, and occasionally prone to explosive outbursts at school. He struggled to focus, and his behavior earned him constant calls from his teachers. About 3 years ago, after months of stressful parent-teacher conferences, Lisa initiated the search for a diagnosis. She went to countless appointments, consulted multiple specialists, and eventually settled on Dr. Miller, a developmental pediatrician who specialized in complex behavioral issues. Lisa came home one day, looking simultaneously relieved and exhausted with the answer: severe ADHD with oppositional defiant disorder, ODD. The doctor prescribed a low dose of a powerful, long-acting stimulant to manage the symptoms. From that day forward, Alex's life revolved around the medication. He took his pill every morning, dutifully administered by Lisa. The medication helped, to a point. Alex became calmer, quieter, easier to manage. But the trade-off was brutal. The spark in his eyes seemed dimmer. He lost weight. His creativity seemed stunted, and he spent most afternoons staring out the window, looking detached. I hated the medication, but Lisa would always shut down my concerns with cold, unassailable logic. "We don't have a choice, David. This is what the doctor ordered. We have to treat the diagnosis if we want him to succeed." I deferred to her knowledge, her exhaustive research, and her role as the primary healthcare parent. That deference was my failure. The discovery was triggered by a routine financial audit, a task completely removed from medical concerns. Our family insurance coverage had recently changed, and I needed the exact billing history for the last 5 years to finalize the new policy. Lisa gave me the primary insurance account login, but warned me that the billing was complicated and confusing. I logged in and downloaded the itemized medical statements. I was looking for routine physicals, but my eyes landed immediately on a recurring entry: psychiatric consultation, Dr. Miller, monthly. This was normal. Alex's appointments were monthly. But next to those appointments was another recurring entry that made my hands tremble: psychiatric consultation, Dr. Elias, quarterly. Dr. Elias. I had never heard that name. Dr. Miller was Alex's pediatrician. Why would there be quarterly psychiatric consultations with another doctor? I pulled up the prescription history linked to the account, and there it was. The recurring prescription for the stimulant, always filled at the same pharmacy, always ordered by Dr. Miller. But beneath that, starting about 2 years ago, was a separate, recurring prescription ordered by Dr. Elias. A strong benzodiazepine, an anti-anxiety and sedative medication, a serious drug often used for acute panic or trauma. I stared at the screen, the blood roaring in my ears. Alex was 9 years old. Why was he being medicated simultaneously with a stimulant and a powerful sedative? I immediately cross-referenced the dates. The prescriptions were being filled concurrently, a medical combination that seemed incredibly risky, even negligent. I immediately called Dr. Miller's office, identified myself, and asked for an explanation for the dual medication. The nurse was confused. "Mr. Vance, Alex is only on the stimulant. Dr. Miller has never prescribed a benzodiazepine." The ground dropped out from under me. I pulled up the prescription receipts again. Dr. Elias. I called the pharmacy. I asked who was picking up the powerful sedative. The voice on the phone was slow, professional, and devastating. The prescription is under Alex Vance, but the pickup authorization is listed for Lisa Vance, the mother. It has been picked up monthly for 2 years. Lisa was secretly drugging our son with a powerful sedative. She was picking up a prescription ordered by a doctor I didn't know, a drug that directly countered the stimulant he was already taking, and a drug that explained his lethargy, his lack of creativity, and his withdrawal. I didn't even know if Dr. Elias was real. The sheer scale of the medical deception was an act of profound, calculated abuse. I waited until Lisa came home. She walked in, looking tired but efficient, setting down her briefcase and her purse. "Did you finish the insurance forms, honey? I hope it wasn't too confusing." I walked up to her holding the printed prescriptions and billing history. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the paper, but my voice was cold and steady, fueled by 2 years of guilt and ignorance. "Tell me about Dr. Elias, Lisa. Tell me about the benzodiazepine, and tell me why you've been secretly sedating our 9-year-old son for the last 2 years. Her face went from fatigue to absolute, sickening terror. She didn't deny it. She just looked at the papers, at the proof of her systematic betrayal, and quietly sank to the floor, the sound of her falling a final, dull confirmation of the wreckage she had caused. Lisa didn't scream or defend herself when I confronted her. She just sat on the floor, the picture of perfect collapsed composure. She was a meticulous planner, even in her downfall. Her confession, delivered in a steady, toneless voice, was far worse than I had imagined. It wasn't about the ADHD diagnosis. Dr. Miller's initial assessment was largely correct, confirming Alex was indeed high energy and prone to difficulty focusing. The core of the betrayal was Lisa's shame. "He was too much, David," she finally choked out, tears finally coming, though they didn't touch her eyes. The calls from the school were endless. The other parents looked at me with pity. They called him unmanageable. I couldn't bear the thought of having that kind of child, the wild, loud one who fails. I needed him to be quiet. I needed him to be compliant. I needed him to be perfect. Her motive wasn't a mistaken attempt at healing. It was a selfish, desperate effort to control her son's personality, to fit her image of the perfect family. The benzodiazepine wasn't medicine, it was a chemical muzzle. The truth about Dr. Elias was equally chilling. Dr. Elias was not a developmental pediatrician. He was a disgraced psychiatrist operating a cash-only practice 2 counties over, a legal pill mill that Lisa had found through deep, dark corners of online parenting forums. Lisa admitted she fabricated much of Alex's symptoms to him, exaggerating his restlessness into acute nighttime anxiety and his difficulty with transitions into pre-psychotic episodes. She had paid cash, kept the visits off our primary insurance, and forged my signature on the initial consultation forms. She had built an entire medical fiction around our son to achieve one simple goal: silence. My paternal instinct, which had been dormant and trusting for 3 years, exploded into a fierce protective rage. I felt a visceral urge to smash every object in the room, but I channeled the fury into action. I immediately called Dr. Miller, Alex's legitimate pediatrician, and delivered the shocking truth about the sedative. Dr. Miller was horrified. He told me the combination of a stimulant and a powerful sedative, especially given Alex's small size and young age, could have caused long-term cardiac and neurological damage. He ordered me to bring Alex in immediately and begin a medically supervised, gradual withdrawal. The following days were hell. I kept Alex home from school, telling him and his sister that Lisa had suddenly left for an emergency family crisis.
Alex started the withdrawal under Dr. Miller's strict supervision. The physical side effects were severe. Alex, who had been calm and withdrawn for years, became manic, irritable, and then deeply physically ill with nausea and tremors. He was confused, agitated, and his small body was fighting years of chemical suppression. My heart broke watching him suffer, knowing that every agonizing symptom was a testament to my wife's calculating cruelty and my own blind neglect. I brought the children to my sister's house, giving her the minimum necessary details, that Lisa had been lying about Alex's medication, while I stayed behind to file the emergency paperwork. The marriage was over, but the fight for my son's safety had just begun. My lawyer was appalled. The intentional, non-consensual administration of controlled substances to a minor under false medical pretense immediately constituted medical abuse and gave me a clear path to securing full custody. I sat down with Lisa one final time, not as her husband, but as her judge. "You stole his childhood, Lisa," I said, my voice heavy with a cold finality. "You traded his happiness and his health for your comfort and your image. You didn't just lie to me, you endangered our son's life with a pill mill doctor. I have filed for divorce, and I'm seeking sole custody based on medical abuse. You will not be allowed near him unsupervised until a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation determines you are fit." She started crying again, this time with genuine desperation, realizing the magnitude of the consequences. She pleaded that she was only thinking of his success, that without the medication he would fail in school and life. But her tears were too late. I looked at the woman who had been my wife and saw only the calculated, cold-hearted stranger who had systematically poisoned our son's spirit for the sake of her reputation. I walked out of the room, leaving her alone with her shame, committed to ensuring that my son would never again be medicated by the fear and vanity of his mother.
The days and weeks that followed my final confrontation with Lisa were dominated by the slow, grinding machinery of the legal system, but the immediate crisis was Alex. We continued the withdrawal process under Dr. Miller's strict supervision. The period was marked by chaos, explosive emotional swings, difficulty sleeping, and profound confusion as the sedatives finally left his system. The quiet, compliant boy I had known for 3 years was gone, replaced by the vibrant, messy, frustrated boy he was meant to be. The pain of watching him fight for his own spirit was agonizing, but it was mixed with a fierce joy at seeing his true energy return. Every creative burst of hyperactivity was a victory against Lisa's years of chemical suppression. Lisa fought the divorce and the custody petition with a terrifying coldness. She tried to frame me as the emotionally distant father who was trying to punish her for seeking help for their son. She claimed the Dr. Elias appointments were part of a specialized secret treatment that I was simply too uninformed to understand. But her lie was flimsy. My lawyer presented the evidence: the concurrent prescriptions of opposing drugs, the cash payments to an unlicensed psychiatrist in another county, and the lack of communication with Alex's primary pediatrician. The evidence was irrefutable. She had engaged in medical child abuse motivated by her own vanity and fear of social judgment. The custody hearing was brutal, but definitive. The judge was visibly appalled by the calculated nature of the medical deception. Lisa was granted only supervised visitation rights, with the caveat that she undergo mandated psychiatric evaluation and could have no input whatsoever on Alex's medical care. The divorce was granted immediately. The final image of Lisa was her leaving the courthouse, still clinging to her sense of righteous victimhood, unable to acknowledge the catastrophic harm she had inflicted on her own son for the sake of her reputation. The recovery was long and layered. Alex finally received a proper low-dose ADHD treatment plan from Dr. Miller that focused on behavioral therapies and structure, not chemical suppression. The challenge was integrating the real Alex back into a world that had forgotten him. Teachers struggled with his high energy. Some parents recoiled from his sudden outbursts, but I was fiercely protective. I fought for him in every classroom, every playground, and every parent meeting. I didn't see a difficult child. I saw a resilient survivor, bursting with creativity that had been bottled up for years. I had to learn how to parent the son who had been chemically suppressed, and it was the hardest, most rewarding work of my life. Our family restructured entirely. I leaned heavily on my sister, who helped me navigate single fatherhood and the constant vigilance required to protect Alex. I made sure to prioritize Alex's emotional healing, apologizing to him repeatedly for the years I had been too trusting to question his mother's actions. I told him that his energy was a gift, not a burden, and that his greatest strength was the spirit that had fought through the medication. Years later, Alex is thriving. He still has ADHD, but he manages it with structure and humor. He is currently excelling in high school, focusing on engineering, a field that harnesses his intense focus and energy. The quiet boy who stared out the window is gone, replaced by a confident young man who knows his worth is not defined by compliance. The marriage was a profound failure, but I see the years of deception not just as a betrayal, but as a lesson. I learned that trust, particularly in parenting, requires active questioning, not blind deference. I spent years trusting the image of the devoted mother Lisa projected, rather than trusting my own instincts about my son's well-being. The financial cost of the divorce and the legal battles was steep, but it was negligible compared to the cost Alex paid. My final reflection is one of heavy gratitude. I may have lost my wife and the illusion of my perfect family, but by exposing the hidden medicine, I finally saved my son's spirit. The scar of that betrayal remains, but it is now overshadowed by the bright, loud, messy reality of the son I fought to reclaim.